one of the challenges for small business technology a lot of times is, of course, there's a smaller budget. So a lot of times people think smaller feature set, or they want more simplicity, but yet they have complicated things because, in this case I'm naming, they're clearly using one tool to do it all, right? So
Yep.
how do you think about, like, as you and your teams develop and build, what goes into that decision process today? Because do you err to the side of simplicity? Do you err to the side of budget? How do you think about doing this? Because I always joke, like, small businesses have all the problems enterprises have. It's just that they don't have any money to pay for the solution.
Right. That's right. It's true. That's the hard part. The good part is it's a lot easier to solve their problems because they don't have so much hierarchy,
Mm,
bureaucracy, multiple organizations, departments, egos, personalities, you name it. And so that's the positive side of it. But the reality is they do have challenging problems and they don't have the budget for it. So you're exactly right. To answer your question, about 2007, the business really started to take off around our marketing automation capabilities that we had built. We began a couple years later, marketing automation started becoming a thing. And around 2010, we started to say marketing automation for small business. And what we found was people who were trying to map their customer journey, they couldn't automate it. And that's what they began using our software for. And we built a very powerful platform for them to do that. But it wasn't always easy. And so if you were more of a process-oriented marketing mind, you felt like you died and gone to heaven when you got our product because it was like, oh my gosh, if I can flowchart it, I can automate it. This is amazing. Well, let's be honest, that's a small subset of small businesses. Most small businesses don't think that way. That's not how they're wired and oriented. And so the journey that we've been on was we created this powerful solution. And then a few years ago, we realized, hey, we've got to create a simple, lighter solution for businesses that aren't ready for all of that power.
mm.
And that's why we changed the name of the company to Keap and created a light, simple automation so we now have our easy automations and our advanced automations. The advanced automations is what we've always had with our marketing automation capabilities, but now we've created easy automations. And that's getting that solution for the more process-oriented, automation-oriented, flowchart-oriented small business, and having a solution for customers that actually need that, but they don't think that way, and trying to get them into that world. That was the hardest challenge we've faced as a company. And it just about killed us, to be totally honest. It was so difficult and so challenging to take this powerful automation solution because you can't just dumb it down and simplify it. We had to actually reimagine it from the beginning and then build the easy automations that can then help the customer ramp up into our advanced automation.
I mean, again, the adage "simple ain't easy" rings true again. A lot of people that have been on this show have talked about how hard it was to simplify something.
Yes.
When we, the consumer, if we don't recognize it because we just see, oh, it's only 3 buttons, somehow it just magically works. But a lot of thought
Right.
obviously went into that. You mentioned it almost killed you guys. How did you get through that typical transition? Because you obviously did that more later in the company's trajectory. So you have a lot of customers, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, which a lot of people might, if you're not familiar with. It eventually gets to the point where every time you add something, half the people say it's awesome, half the people say that sucks. And it's
Right.
really hard to get consensus on anything. It sounds like you had that same problem. Every
Yep.
time you add a feature, someone's like, oh, that's harder to use. Or you simplify something, hey, you lost something for me. It's a challenge. How did you go about that? Because I could hear it in your voice that it was tough. So how did you
Yeah,
and your
it
teams take
really
this
was.
on?
It was so tough. We started to do it ourselves with the team that had built the powerful solution, and then we realized, you know what, we need a different kind of thinking. So I
Mm,
brought in some people from the outside. We built a team to work on it, and you have all the challenges of the existing product that is paying the bills, and then the new thing, and they kind of go to war with each other. It's a really tricky thing, and so what we ended up doing was we created the team that we brought in helped us create a simple paradigm and an easier way to do the sales and marketing, but they left out the real secret sauce of what we do, which is the automation. And so They felt very strongly about not going deeply into that. And long story short, there was sort of boardroom battles and executive team battles. And as a founder, I was kind of on the outside of that. And we struggled for a couple of years trying to get that right. And then I got the reins back after a couple of years, and we began to bring the automation into what our easy product is. And so now we have Keap, which has an easy interface with an easy user experience with easy automations, and that's our pro solution. And then you go up to our Max, and that's our long-standing, robust, powerful solution that we've had.
In your story, I couldn't help but think like this again. I often do this with all my guests, is I reference things that I've heard other guests say, and you mentioned getting an outside voice or an outside opinion because we've heard from different tech leaders before. It's like if you've spent your whole life building something, it's very hard for you to imagine what else it should be, right? And it sounds like this happened. How did you know that the decision had to be made to be like, I got to get an outside voice in this arena? Not because my existing team's not good at it, but because they're not able to, because you've recognized that there's something they're not seeing. What made you make that decision? How did it go? Like, were they sensitive to it? Did they think, hey, what are you doing to me, Clay? Like, I've been building for you for all these years. You're telling me that someone else knows better than me? Like, what's going on?
Yes, all of those things. And I would say, and some of those things I was wrong on, and some of those things I was right on. I mean, you know how it goes. You don't nail it perfectly. But the way that we knew is that my co-founders and I were saying, we've tried to simplify this. We really need to rethink it. Mm. And so, when I loved your point about simplicity, it's simple lies on the other side of a very complex journey that you have to go through. Yeah. And so we realized that we weren't making the progress in ease of use that we needed to make. And we recognized that our paradigm and our way of thinking was limited to the way that we had built it from the beginning. And so we just felt like we needed outside thinking. And we absolutely did. In hindsight, I would have done it a little differently. I would have brought them in as consultants and maybe, a full-time hire or two. But that need in the business coincided with a personal need I had to be a little more present at home and balance things out after, burning it hard as an entrepreneur for many years. And so what we ended up doing was I put a COO in place, and that COO ended up just having a different vision than what we could see and what we believed was needed. And he wasn't wrong and we weren't right. It was just different. Mm-hmm. And it created a lot of tension and a lot of challenge for us to work through, which then the board had to make a call. Well, which way are we going to go? Are we going to go with the founders, or are we going to go with this COO that's got a lot of, years of experience and has a team that he's been bringing in that have that experience? And it was, usually boards go with the pedigree, not the founding group. And so that's what happened. And to be honest, there was a period of time there where I was pretty frustrated. I was kind of feeling disempowered and in the corner and not able to really do much. Even though I had the title of CEO, mm-hmm. I couldn't actually remove the people and do anything that to make CEO decisions. And I went through a pretty tough period working with my coach and getting through that. And then I got to the point where I was really grateful for what they had created in simplicity that we couldn't. I recognized that while the board sided with them, they didn't boot me out, which is what usually happens. And I became very grateful for the opportunity to still be in the company and to now have an easy to use experience for our customers. And I recognized that if we could just get the secret sauce of our automation injected into the product in the right way, that we'd really have something exciting. And so I was able to get the reins back and outlast those who were dealing with the challenges that didn't have it in their DNA and their passion to do this the way a founder does. And so we began putting the automation into the product and began making progress to unify what was a very powerful product and a very simple, basic product that needed to be brought together in one product line.
IT Visionaries is powered by Salesforce Platform and Dreamforce. Did you know all of the very best Dreamforce sessions are available for free on salesforce.com/plus? We recommend watching the Platform and MuleSoft keynote to get the down low on doing more with less and increasing efficiency with automation.